Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. Joined today with draft professors Taylor and Steve, and we are here to discuss some interior offensive linemen. Taylor, how are you doing this fine evening?
Doing good, doing well. I'm excited to talk some offensive linemen. You said it's one of the first shows we've talked about offensive linemen, so that's fun. Interior, anyways. So we got a lot of updates from the combine, some measurements in, so it should be a fun show.
Yeah, so the Wednesday crew did a show on centers. So they only covered centers, but that podcast was the only one that this channel has done on interior offensive line since December. So I'm definitely looking forward to this conversation. Steve, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm actually curious how you're doing. News of a Buffalo Bills trade today. So, couldn't wait to go live with you here and ask your feelings on new Buffalo Bill receiver DJ Moore.
So I'm wearing my Turkey Burger Mafia shirt today. So DJ Moore is going to experience turkey burgers at St. John Fisher, which is where Buffalo holds training camp. Apparently, that's Josh Allen's favorite food at St. John Fisher's, the turkey burgers, hence the shirt. But anyways, as far as DJ Moore goes, the way I look at this is that it's one of 10 moves that Buffalo needs to make this offseason, right? Like the roster needs a lot of additions. Really the discussion was, okay, what wide receiver now pairs well with DJ Moore, right? He's going to allow us to stretch the field vertically. He is going to be able to win some on the outside, which is huge. So really the biggest issue with Buffalo's offense is we need to be able to win on the outside and we need to be able to win 20 yards down the field. And if those elements of the offense exist, the offense that was ranked second or third in the league is going to get better. So we need to remind everybody of that, right? Like Brandon Beane will say, we're dealing with one of the best offenses in the league, right? So whatever retooling is done, it's retooling one of the best offenses in the league. Like, with all due respect, Steve, this isn't like fixing the Jets, right? Like one guy, right? Yeah. So,
Wow.
So yeah, and I guess that really didn't come out right. But this is what I mean. Like when you're a playoff team, one or two additions is going to make a huge difference. Buffalo has about 10 more moves to make. Probably, we have to add like 2 safeties, 2 linebackers, 2 corners. Like if you look, like Buffalo's roster just has voids in it. Like we only have 2 corners on the roster. Right. Now it's 2 starting corners. But right, so there's a lot of moves that need to be made. So it's good to see JT here, good to see Steve here, good to see Brandon here. Brandon, this podcast is for you because the Texans will need offensive linemen like Buffalo needs wide receivers. So
The problem with that is the Texans picked too low to get the best offensive interior lineman in the class. So that's my opinion. I think he's probably going to go top 15. I have Vega Ione as my top offensive lineman, but I think he could go as high as, the Dolphins. I think pick 11. They need interior offensive linemen, but like the Texans are down mid-20s, I think 28 actually.
Yeah.
And
yes.
You might be able to get the second best interior offensive lineman at 28, but I think Vega Ione is probably going top 5. He's just like, you remember a couple years ago when Tyler Booker was drafted in the first round, everyone's like, they're not drafting Tyler Booker. Well, if you remember, Tyler Booker was physical. He was strong. He was just an interior lineman that wanted to be an interior lineman, and that's it. He had the mindset, the power, the skill, and the technique to be a first-round top 15 pick. That's what Vega Ione is to me. He has the same mindset that Tyler Booker had that got him drafted 12th overall to go along with the tape, to go along with the mental side of it, the technique in the run game and the pass game. He's just, in my opinion, he's the best interior offensive lineman. And while it's not a huge gap like we see at running back or we see at tight end, I do think there's some distance between Vega Ione and the field. So I see Vega Ione as a top 15 pick. I think his floor is probably the Chargers at 22. So if you want to go get him as a Texans fan, you got to trade up to get Vega Ione. There's just no way around it. I think he's going to be the first interior offensive lineman off the board.
Yeah.
Okay. Steve, is Vega Ione from Penn State your interior offensive line one as well?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Venga Ioane. One of these days we'll hold a pronunciation class. And by the way, his name means God is gracious. So take that for your trivia fact of the day. But absolutely, and I agree with Cha. I look at the Dolphins and, you listen to the comments from John Eric Sullivan, whatever. They want to build from the inside out. They need a guard. They need a tackle. They need an edge. Obviously, they could use another receiver, but yeah, that might be the ceiling at pick 12. Look at my Jets at 16. It doesn't look like they're bringing back John Simpson or Elijah Vera Tucker, so that's a possibility. But yeah, I mean, power based, great in pass protection. I think the run blocking needs a lot of work. He's good. Especially, I think it's a scheme fit thing, the gap versus the zone. But yeah, he's better in the gap, but he's just a violent physical player. And yeah, for sure. Barring other people, well, one person in particular that we may talk about later, I do think, he will be the first interior lineman off the board. I guess I will keep it going with my second choice, if that's cool, and that is Emmanuel Pregnon of Oregon. 3-year starter, great with his hands, has not allowed a sack in a couple of seasons, very durable. He's been able to cut down on the penalties over the last few years. Keeping his blocks is something to work in. But I do have a first round grade on him. I think he is going to go first round too. So, Brandon, depending how you like him, if you like Besantis, who I have on my list, or, Pregnon, I think, that's a legit, probably more likely chance for you where you're picking versus Venga. But he's my number 2. What else do I want to add? Just good athleticism, able to quickly get to that second level, quick feet, strong hands, very high level, as a pass protector, very good as a run defender as well. Cha, thoughts on Pregnon?
Okay, go ahead, Cha. Go ahead and go on Pregnon. I do have some things to add, but I'll do it after Taylor goes.
Yeah, okay. I do think as the Texans are sitting there at 28, I think this is more realistic. But I also don't know that it's that realistic because I have close to a first-round grade on him. He's slightly under what I would say a first-round grade is, like early second for me. But yeah, I mean, he's really good in the run game. I do think he goes first round. I don't think I'm going to have more than 20, 25 first-round grades in this entire class. So you're going to get people, especially at some of these positions, get propped up. And I think Pregnon is one of those guys that's kind of rising. I think, they had a decently deep run into the college football playoff, which just allowed more eyes on him. He kept playing well. So I just, his explosiveness isn't, the best in the entire class by any means. But he's really, really good off the ball in the run game. And I think he's just a player that can play anywhere on the interior line. I know he's mostly played left guard, I believe. But I do think he can move around a bit, which also helps him. So I think any team that needs an interior offensive lineman back half of the first round, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go.
See, so Pregnon's interesting. So we did a podcast on Saturday where it was, which players are you higher on or lower on than consensus? And there are a lot of people that are lower than Pregnon, right? So there's some people that see it, and then there's other people that are like, I won't touch him until day 3, which is interesting for a player that's getting first round grades, right? Like that's
Yeah.
what, like if it's a day 2 player that some people see as day 3, to me that's not that far off. But if somebody has him, let's say top 25, and somebody else says he's not even in my top 150, that's a big gap, right?
Yeah, that's where you just completely miss out on the player. You don't get a chance to get him because he's not gonna fall. He's not gonna fall to day 3. He's just not. So he's too good. Like he's not close to falling to day 3. So anyone, if there's 8 GMs in the league that say, yeah, he's a day 3 pick, well, he has 24 other chances to get drafted, and he will.
Yes.
Like he's that good of a player. So I don't know what they're seeing to have. Like I could get being lower than consensus, and I get that, but day 3 seems kind of just like a shock value take to me. I'm gonna take it with a grain of salt.
Well, so, and help me out a little bit. So Pregnon is very scheme specific. Like if you're in a system that's going to power block straight ahead, you want Pregnon. But if you're going to be pulling a lot, he's not the guard for you, correct?
No, and I would argue neither is really Ione either, right? Like he's kind of more the same. Right. They're kind of similar. They're both power guards for sure, but they're both the two of the most powerful guards in the entire class. So, if they do, and they will get drafted into those schemes because that's how teams draft. They don't, if they're not going to go draft Spencer Fano and say, come play power center for us. Like it's not a thing. So, these guys are going to get drafted to fit their schemes that the GM, the coaches, they have talked about this. They are willing to bet their top 50 pick on both of these guys to be day 1 starters on their offensive line. So I think, they definitely more power dependent, but how many teams run power in the NFL, right? A lot. So it's not where he's not going to have a home. It's just, it is going to be scheme specific and it is going to be team dependent. So it's interesting. I don't see day 3. I definitely, like I said, I don't even have a first round grade on him. So he's just early day 2 for me, but that just kind of gets bumped around depending on team need. So it's interesting that I'm hearing day 3 a little bit.
Yeah. And there was a Ravens podcaster that came on and said that Pregnon is actually a better scheme fit for the Ravens than Vega is. Right. Like, so there are people that even have Pregnon higher than Vega. Right. So that's what I mean. Like, this is fascinating. But Shaw, who is your interior offensive lineman 3?
We are going to stick with this is a little I'm gonna go and stick with guard here. I think this is the guy who rose at the combine and he was already on my radar and he just keeps flying up the board, and that's Keelan Rutledge. He is the guard out of Georgia Tech. So 6'4", 316 pounds, 9.61 relative athletic score. He's just a really, really good player. For me, like he is able to move well. Like he moves better at the second level than I think both of the guys we've talked about so far. He has, a strong run game present, a good anchor and pass protection. Like he doesn't get moved. Like he is just, I think the upside with some of the athleticism and explosion stuff from Pregnon and Pregnon did have a good relative athletic score, but Ione obviously didn't work out. So we don't know, but Keelan Rutledge even had a more impressive, athletic score than Pregnon did, which again, that matches the film. I gave them the same film grade. So when you start looking at that, you're looking at plug and play day 1 starters. And I think Rutledge fits that bill. I think he's a solid, firmly cemented second round pick. For me, like I think a team will be like, oh, we have a hole at guard. Guess what? Like we just named the Ravens, right? We named the Jets. Who else needs a guard? The Lions need interior offensive line. There's a bunch of teams that are picking in the middle of the second that I think, and the Chargers, we talked about them as well. Like they're another team. They're definitely going to be looking interior offensive line, whether that's first or second round. They need players that can protect Justin Herbert. So Rutledge to me, day 1, plug and play starter. He's kind of my last guard that is like day 1, plug and play. You're starting, no questions asked. That is why we're picking you this high to start day 1. And Rutledge is kind of where I cut off right there for guards. So, I'm a big fan of Rutledge. I think he's kind of more balanced than both of these other 2 guys where he can play multiple schemes, which opens him up to, more opportunities in terms of where he can get drafted. So what do you have on Rutledge, Steve?
Yeah, he's my number 3 as well. Couple of things on him. So he was Georgia Tech's first back-to-back All-American since Megatron, 20 years ago. Won the ACC Brian Piccolo Award for most courageous. Obviously, the story was out there. I think it was 2 years or 3 years ago. He had a really bad foot injury from a car accident. And let's see. But I think you hit the nail on the head. I think when you look at analytically, he's probably the most complete guard in this class. I think he's entrenched in a round 2 conversation. I think, like I said, the analytics as well as the consensus, he's right where he should be. I see the comment on Basantis, and I'm probably higher on Chase Basantis than Shaw is. But I think the thing with Basantis, his tape outpaces, the data that's out there. And you don't find that with Keelan Rutledge. His true pass set performance is perfect. I actually think it's better than Venga's. No pressures allowed, no sacks, no hits, no hurries in any one-on-one drop back. That is the second highest true pass rate. So we're talking elite potential there, right? And I'm very cautious with that word. Even the run blocking, is really illuminating if you look at statistics. But, 2 years at Georgia Tech, came over from Tennessee State. My notes on him is he just plays mean. He's got a great anchor. He keeps his pad level low, which, for 6'3", you expect that. Only allowed 6 total pressures during his total, career at Georgia Tech. He is the negative, I would say, is he does draw a lot of flags, which makes him perfect for my New York Jets because that was John Simpson at left guard. But regardless, moving on, trying to focus on the positives. Yeah, but Rutledge is my guard 3. Whose turn is it? Is it mine, or do we have, bless you, do we have anything else to add on Rutledge?
Well, do you want to, who's your number 4? Because I can either go on to my number 1 center in the class, or we can continue with your 4th.
I'll let the moderator decide that.
No, you guys, I would just say just keep going. Let's cover as many interior offensive linemen as we can.
Yeah, who do you got? I'm curious who you have 4.
Plenty of them drafted. So
yeah, do you have Basantis 4?
I do.
All right, tell me about Basantis, because I have him as my 8th overall interior lineman. So I'm trying. I was watching the tape, and I do agree that the tape is better than the analytics. Like if you're talking PFF grade, like his analytics are kind of bad. I just couldn't get over the fact that he was always on the ground. I watched 3 games, and he was on the ground more than the running back getting tackled. I feel like he struggles with balance, I think, is my biggest thing with like my projection for Basantis. And I love the size. I think he's a really good player. Obviously, the Raz jumps off the screen. I still have him as a day 2 pick. Don't get me wrong, but I just think for where I want to see a guard or a starting, day 1 starter get drafted in early second, we're talking about first round picks in Venga, Pregnon, Rutledge. We're talking guys that can legit go top 50. For Basantis, I just want him to be a little bit more balanced, be a little bit more on his feet. And I think he doesn't show that a lot of times. So I have him knocked a little bit for that. But I'm curious, Steve, what you have on him.
Yeah, so big dude, right? 6'6". I don't have the combine numbers in front of me to know, but
6'5",
fully
315.
Okay, so I was an inch higher on the last thing. No worries. For those that don't know, I grew up in New York City. I spent about 7 years in New Jersey before moving to Southwest Florida 14 years ago. So 4-star recruit from a famous New Jersey school known as Don Bosco Prep. He was ranked number 1 recruit in the state. He picked the Aggies over Alabama, Ohio State. Okay, nobody's perfect. Notre Dame, LSU, Penn State, Clemson. There's a few others in there. started 12 games at right tackle, moved over to guard in freshman year. But like I said before, I think there's a big disconnect between the tape and the data. I think the scouting community, sees him as a first round talent. I'm not exactly there. I think they look at him as of what an interior lineman should be: physical, aggressive tone setter. He's got the power, good hands, lower body power. I question some of the opinions on that. I think the lower body strength may be a negative, but he really fires out of his stance. He's young. He's going to be 21 on draft day, so probably one of the youngest, if not the youngest. The negative plays and the penalties are definitely a concern. So that's why in relation to other draft professors or others, within this little community of ours, I probably have him ranked a little lower. He needs to stop lunging, and I think he has certain issues with some speed, but overall, I think, you look at the athletic traits, of what he did last weekend, and everything. Yeah. So I think that puts him somewhere around 5th among guards, but yeah, that's what I've got. Yeah, he's my number 4.
Yeah, he definitely has the size. I'm a fan of that. I just I think the lunging thing for me was what it was. Like that's why he ends up on the ground a lot, and
well, he loves pancakes. That could be it too.
That's coachable. So I do think he has some upside for sure, and I do see him as a day 2 pick.
Okay. Shaw, who's your 4th interior offensive lineman?
That would be new interior offensive lineman, Spencer Fano. I have him graded. I just graded him as a center. I already had him graded as a tackle. The arm length is an issue, and people talk about the arm length. Oh, it's not that big of an issue. It is an issue at tackle. I think there's one offensive tackle in the entire league that has sub 33-inch arms right now, and I believe it is the former. No, is it Braden Smith from the Colts? I want to say he has 32-inch arms.
Doesn't Campbell? I think Campbell's
is Campbell sub 33. So he might have been the second one last year. Point being, you saw Campbell just get absolutely ran over all playoffs. So, at tackle. So I see Fano as like the reason I project him as a center is mainly because of the size, but also the movement skills, right? Like I think he could also. I don't think he has the anchor to play guard, in my opinion. Like he'd have to get in a really specific, scheme fit in order for him to, be at. And this isn't like. The difference between, I'm seeing this comment, the difference between Peter Skoronski and Spencer Fano is that one of them played left tackle and the other one played right tackle. So like playing left tackle, and it just gives you more value in the NFL. It just does. Most quarterbacks are right-handed. It's the blind side, right? People know that. Obviously that's changed a little bit with the Falcons and the Dolphins until obviously now having left-handed quarterbacks. So there were some different, positions that Fano can go. But I think rather than like a Skoronski situation, I think Fano can play pretty much anywhere on the offensive line. I just think he projects as my 4th best interior offensive lineman. If I was only grading him as an interior offensive lineman, forgetting the fact that he played tackle in college, and I'm just looking at him from an interior offensive lineman perspective, I think he's going to be great, and he could be great in a zone scheme where he can move in space and can command the center of the field. Like he has the mental side of things down. He is one of the best in the class, not just offensive lineman interiorly, tackles regardless, at squaring up his blocks and moving them with his legs before he even makes contact. So he gets around the defender and pushes him the direction he wants him to go while the play's happening. He commands the offensive line, whether it's the defensive end or whether he's pushing down to an interior defensive lineman. He's able to get his footwork is so good that he's able to get in front of them and move them, even though he has short arms, even though he isn't able to get into the body. And the one thing I noticed with him in pass protection, I thought it was so interesting, is when you're looking at pass protection from him, you see the small arms right away, but it's not really that bad a lot of the times. Now, when I watched the Texas Tech game, David Bailey was all over him. He was basically Spencer Fano. He was basically having to choke like David Bailey to stop getting the quarterback. I don't know how he didn't get like 5 holding calls that game. I'm not the ref. I don't make that decision. But he is so passive on pass protection when he's facing a pure edge, right? When he's facing David Bailey, he doesn't, most people, most offensive tackles will try to hit you, get your hands into you. He can't do that because his arms aren't long enough. And you see that on tape. And like once you see the measurements and you go back and watch the tape, you won't be able to unsee it because he can't get his hands extended. So instead of trying to be aggressive on the push, right, he waits. He waits until the defender is almost in his body, and then he tries to engage in pass protection. And that to me is why he can't stick at tackle. He just can't. He doesn't, like, the handwork is not very good, against pure edge rushers. So he can't just sit on right tackle and, he would get shredded by Max Crosby, for example. Like these types of guys, like I'm talking about David Bailey, one of the top 5 picks in the class. David Bailey's top 5 pick in the class. He's not a top 20 edge rusher in the NFL. So like I'm saying, like there's layers to it. And I think moving him interior center specifically in a zone scheme, I think he's the best center in the class. And I think he has that flexibility that, hey, oh man, our right tackle's out this week, but we have a pretty quality backup center. Okay, well maybe you just move Fano to the right side for one game. You can play right tackle for a month while someone's injured or whatever. That's the versatility that I think Fano brings. But if I'm grading him as just a pure interior offensive lineman, I see a lot of good things that make me, excited about his future, even with the measurements being a little bit smaller.
Okay. Steve, who's your 5th offensive lineman?
Yeah, so before I just want to talk a little more about Fano because my next one is also a center moving over from the tackle position. So I wanted Cha to lead the discussion on this because, after the combine, time didn't really permit to go back and, and look at Fano because I did have him as one of my top tackles coming in, to this past season. Right. And it's funny you brought it up. That was the game that I've started rewatching, was against Texas Tech. And I know the big thing ever since, the last few games of the season with Will Campbell is up 32 or whatever inch arms. Nope. I do think it matters that Fano was playing on the right side of the line. Okay. Now, if he was the blindside protector for, Tua or dude in Atlanta who's hurt, Penix, or, Cole Payton, wherever he goes, that would be a bigger concern for me. I don't disagree that he should move inside, but, I can't compare him and Campbell because I look at Campbell. I always felt Campbell should be a guard, especially on that left side. I think some of taking Campbell's injury out of the equation, and maybe that was a part of the issue, but I did feel that Fano's base and feet are stronger than Campbell's. I think his usage of hands are better. So I'm not disagreeing with the point. I'm just not ready to give up yet, even though common sense and wisdom says I should. But okay,
yeah, I would agree in the run game. I think the pass game is where his hands and feet struggle, I guess, what I was saying. Because like the run game, like I told you, he can move defenders by just putting himself in better position. Pass game is where I think some of those flaws really start to show up. So he's a better run blocker, in my opinion, than he is a pass blocker.
Yep. All right. So next for me, like I said, another tackle moving to center. It's not Fano for me. It's Brian Parker, the second out of Duke. Okay. So moving from tackle to the center position, a little over 6'4". I think I have him at 306. Also, sub 33 inch arms. I think they came in at the combine at just under 33. 10 inch hands, decent 40, all the things. I think the Raz was Shaw was like 907. You're usually more up on that than me.
909. I got it right here.
909. I think in terms of the guys that I'm looking at, he's probably the most complete center conversion in the series. So as we talk Fano, as we'll probably bring up Trey Zune, right? I know the two of us both love our Aggies, in the middle there. I think he's got the most balanced profile, in terms of that. The run blocking is, both a tape as well as an analytical headline to me. I think in terms of a scheme specific thing, you get him in that, zone game. You're dealing with a potentially, you know, more than reliable center. I was trying to pick and choose my words. Very low pressures. Could he add some weight? Maybe. Sustaining blocks could be a challenge. I don't think that's going to be an issue for him playing at the center position. He did allow a lot of pressures, which is another reason why I want to see him move inside. Not the biggest. He's not the longest, in terms of wingspan, but I definitely see him as a day 2 and my top center right now, and whatever we're up to, number 5, I guess. There are a lot of similarities to Zune. I have him a little lower. I think the arm length is identical, but I look at a guy like Joe Tippmann. Now, obviously, Jets took him in the second round 3 years ago, I guess it was. Tippmann's a big dude, much bigger than Parker is, but there are certain traits that I see that compare well. Physical, very competitive blockers, shorter arms, not exactly tackle athleticism. So, but guys that thrived at center because of their run blocking ability, the mental processing that can be translated. So, yep, he's my number 5. What do you think about Parker?
Yeah, I like Parker. I have him as my 9th ranked interior lineman right now. And I think it's just purely based on the fact that I don't think he can. And I know everyone's projecting him to go to center. Same, right? Because he can't play right tackle. Like he had 20 pressures, I think, last year, which is like one of the highest amongst some of the guys in this interior offensive line group. So, but that's playing at tackle. So this is a really interesting evaluation for me because it's really hard for me to, it's really hard to see some things project from like a right tackle, especially in pass protection. I think that's where it really gets tough. Like I just talked about with Fano, like you really start to see some of you can't hide on an island, right? You're playing tackle. You can't hide out there one-on-one versus, an edge rusher in the class. So I think Parker's a little bit more balanced, but I do think he's a pure center. He might be able to play guard, which does bump him up for me a little bit. But I have him as a day 2 pick, and I think he'll be a solid player in the NFL. Let's answer some of these questions. Let's go. Let's go to Anthony here.
Some of the questions were a little off, but okay. So like Maui Noah, I haven't heard anybody pushing him to center, but Anthony likes moving to everybody's position. So that's why, like, I look at that comment and I'm like, Maui Noah is going to be a tackle that fails inside the guard. And, like Jerry Ostrowski, when we were covering Maui Noah, he's like, that's a Pro Bowl guard. He's going to be allowed to fail at tackle. But
yeah.
Your floor on Maui Noah is a Pro Bowl guard.
Yeah, I think the thing with Maui Noah is his ceiling in the draft is pick 3. So, like, he could go as high as pick 3 because the Arizona Cardinals need a tackle. And he's the best one in the class. And it's not necessarily a historic, tackle class by any means. But I think he can play guard easily. I wouldn't move him to center. I don't think he is that type. He's too big, I think, to play center. Like, that's the difference between Fano and Maui Noah when you watch the tape is like, just one of them looks. I just think guys look the part, right? Like that's kind of why I have Vega and Pregnon and Rutledge. Like those guys are just like 5 to 10 year starters in the NFL, right?
Yep. And then Cooper, I would say really scheme specific. So like I love the scouting report on Cooper. Harbaugh takes him in round 3. Everybody else is going to take him sometime on day 3, but he's really scheme specific. So there's going to be some teams where Cooper's not even on their board, or they're going to like other players a lot better. So like to me, one of the toughest things about interior offensive line specifically is you could look at Taylor's board, you could look at Steve's board, but not all of those players are going to be on every team's board because they're looking for a very specific type of player. But Steve, where are you on Inez Cooper?
Yeah, so he is right now for me. I have him as a day 3. I have him at number 8 right now. I love the frame. I don't love the amount of pressures given up. He's really got to get better with that pad level. But the pressures allowed this past year was pretty good. Where I think his strength is, guys chime in, is I think his strength is in the run game, right? What do they call them? The road graders, right?
Mhm. Yep.
He's durable, for the amount of snaps that he's done. He's just played a ton of football. I'm not as high on him as some others might be because I just don't see the consistent effort there when I look at Cooper. So is he going to get drafted? Sure. I think he'll be a round 4 guy. I have him now at, well, that's not important. I don't want to
Well, you
start pulling
said
up
8th
spreadsheets.
overall on your board, so that's actually pretty high because this is
Yeah.
a pretty good interior offensive line class.
Yep.
So, Chaw, who's next on your board?
Well, I'll talk real quick because I actually have him ranked 6th on mine. So I'm actually even a little bit higher on Inez Cooper. And I think part of this was really rewatching the Indiana game and those games at the end of the season. Like his improvement from the beginning of the year to the end of the year was honestly pretty tremendous. I thought, I mean, he absolutely is a road grader in the run game. Like that is his best quality by far. Like he's another one of those guys. And why I project some of these guys a little higher than maybe most is, yeah, he has room to grow, but even with his floor, like he can be a starter in the NFL day 1, right? So I think if a team wants to take him day 3, I think they should definitely do that. I think he's a guy that projects well at the next level. And I know the pressures, right, are a little bit of an issue. But every year he improved on that, right? He got less and less pressures. He only gave up 1 sack this last year, less hits, less hurries. All of that stuff improved over the course of his career. The tape was great all the way through the Indiana game. I mean, he was opening. We talked about this on the running back show. I'm going to throw everyone back to the running back show when I said Mark Fletcher could be RB2 in this class. And everyone said, no. Well, guess who dominated the college football playoff? It's because of the right side of that offensive line. It was not just Maui Noa either. It was Inez Cooper. Like these two dudes were opening every hole for Mark Fletcher. And as good as I already thought Mark Fletcher was, him just being able to run straight through these holes. I mean, Cooper and Maui Noa clearing the way. Like I'm a huge fan. I think he's just that size. You can't teach 6'6", 334. You can't. And when he has some of the tape to back it up, especially in the run game, we'll work on pass pro, right? Like that's something to improve on for sure. But yeah, I like Cooper even a little bit more than Steve, which I was kind of surprised about. Because my system does film. I do film, I do analytics, and I do kind of projection upside, and it all ties together. So then I don't really know where these numbers are coming in, and I'm trying to be true to my brand new model that I'm building for the first time ever. So I'm not trying to move people around. I'm just trying to see how it plays out. And yeah, he graded out as my 6th interior offensive lineman. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But you did ask me who was 5th, and that's Jennings Dunker. Jennings Dunker out of Iowa. You watch the Iowa guys play, and I mean, this is another looks the part. Like you just look at the offensive line from the all 22, and you're like, that dude, I'll take that dude on the right. I'll take him every time. And that's Jennings Dunker. I mean, 6'5", 319 pounds. I mean, he had a really respectable RAS because nobody really thought he could move. He kind of has a funky pass set, right? We watched the drills where he kind of looks a little funky out there, but he is just another, power interior offensive lineman. Like he played right tackle, but he moves like a guard. I mean, he moves like an NFL guard, and it's just that's a pretty natural progression. I think he can play either right or left guard, and your team's going to be a lot better in the run game for it. Again, not someone that really is going to move well in space, but I mean, you get a dude that just has a mindset, that Iowa mindset. Like he wants to block, he wants to play, he wants to play on the offensive line and just beat dudes up all day. Like you watch the interviews, you hear him talk about the game, how much he loves it. That factors in for me to my evaluation. And I'm a huge fan of Jennings Dunker's tape as well. So it all just kind of culminates to him being a top 5 interior offensive lineman for me.
Yep. And you can't really go wrong with interior linemen from Iowa. Right. Like, I mean, Dunker will not be the first. He's not going to be the last. Like, because there was a couple of Iowa guys that went back to school that we evaluated. So Iowa is just turning these guys out. And I'm assuming we're going to get to one of Dunker's teammates here in a few minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Steve, who's next on your board? Steve, you're muted.
Forgot about that. Yeah, you just heard about him from Chaw. Dunker is next on mine. Love the size, 34-inch arms. You hit the nail on the head with the Iowa thing. I think the Iowa system context really is critical for interpreting how we look at these pass blocking guys, because Iowa frequently runs, right, one of the most run heavy schemes of a lot of the prospects that we're talking about. So I think he had, to a degree, fewer pass blocking opportunities, but yeah, he's so clean, well distributed. He's great at picking up the stunts and the blitzes. He just looks like an athlete, right? Running around. I think it was him that they were talking about on the broadcast. They were throwing comps out there of like Brandon Scherf and Zach Martin and Cleveland, Batonio, so we'll see, but great pad level, he's nasty, just great finishing mentality. I do prefer him at guard over than tackle. A lot of that is because I think his anchor strength leaves a little to be desired. Hand placement has to improve, common theme that we'll see with these guys. Question about how he handles power rushers, but did allow a lot of pressures in his career. You could coach that. You really can. So he's my number 6. Anything else we want to say about him before I move on to number 7?
Just move on to the next guy. Let's see how many linemen we can get to here.
All righty. Next one for me. I'm going to go back to the Aggies, if that's okay with everybody. And I am going to go with Armaj Reed Adams. Full-time right guard, good size, one of the top recruits out of high school in Texas. Also a track athlete. He competed in the shot put and discus in track and field. Moved over, run blocking dominant, most maybe of any guard that we've talked about. I think the pass protection is probably his biggest weakness. And maybe that's why, there was some buzz last year that he could be, a top 32 player into more of a day 3 reality. Got to work on those penalties, but again, comes down to coaching. Yeah. So where does he win? Zone run blocking, right? We talk about before these scheme specific guys. He's above average there. I think he could function well, not only in the zone, but I think he can really contribute greatly in the gap scheme as well. His overall strength is, I think, probably his biggest physical trait. He's got a great anchor. He's able to generate power at the point of attack. He processes very quickly. He recognizes what his assignment is and great at picking up of what the defense is getting ready to throw at him. What do you think on Reed Adams, Cha? And then go on your next guy.
Yeah, I love Armaj Reed Adams, and it's so interesting because, like I told you guys, I'm not just grading from a pure tape perspective, but if I was grading from just film alone, I actually have Armaj Reed Adams graded as my second highest interior offensive lineman on only film grade. So a lot of the analytics and not having the athleticism testing, he didn't win any awards. He doesn't really project with this huge upside to me. Like, he is just the player that he is, and he is going to. He's another one of those guys for me that's just like going to come in, plug and play, right guard. Doesn't really have a lot of position versatility, which is another reason I have him ranked 13th. And I'm like, okay, I'm working through this model for the first time. So I'm like, wow, this guy on film, he looks amazing. Some of these other areas kind of bring him down, but everything about him from a pure, he's just so big. He's so violent. I love his mindset. I love the fact that he came up from, I believe he transferred up, right, from a lower level, if I'm not mistaken. So, he's just able to displace defensive tackles, and there's not a lot of guys in the class that can do that consistently. And on tape, it was all over there. I think, he's got average agility. Like, he's not going to be someone that's being asked to pull all over the place. But I just think when you get him going, you running downhill. I just looked up who the Dolphins' new offensive coordinator was to see if you got like that. I saw the question in the chat, seeing if anyone fits specifically with the Dolphins. I actually don't know if Armand Reed Adams, he's an interesting one because they want to run the ball, right? They're going to run the ball to play action. They just got Jeff Hafley, Bobby Slowick's now the OC. So it's an interesting placement there. But for me, the tape was just incredible with Armand Reed Adams. I was on him in summer scouting. I thought he was really good then. I had him as a day 2 pick. Nothing has changed. I do believe he's still a day 2 pick now. And if I was just watching film, ignoring athleticism, ignoring analytics, ignoring upside, ignoring everything, he would be my second highest graded interior offensive lineman. So the tape is that good, in my opinion.
Okay, and Shaw, who's next on your board for you?
Now we already talked about Chase Basantis a little bit, so let me move on. We don't need to talk about him, his teammate, even though obviously they're pretty close on my rankings. So next for me, the only person in my top 10 we haven't got to yet is, and he's someone I've been on since summer scouting, someone that I have compared on this show to a Hall of Famer, and that is Tom Nalen. I think he's a Ring of Famer, not a Hall of Famer, but Tom Nalen is my comp for Jake Slaughter. Jake Slaughter out of Florida. He is my second highest graded center. He would be my center number 1 if Spencer Fano didn't measure with such small arms, and I just moved him there this week. So Jake Slaughter to me is worthy of a day 3 pick. He is just the most, in my opinion, he's like one of the most balanced players in the class. He can fit any scheme. He is smarter than any center in this class by a landslide. He has the mental side of football down. He loves the game. All he wants to do is play center. All he wants to do is play football. I watched some interviews from the combine. For Jake Slaughter, I just think he is so technically consistent. Like, he will get beat a little bit because he's kind of a lean frame. He's like 6'5", 303 pounds. So it's a bit lean. So if he gets bull rushed, it can be a problem at times. But I think he's going to put on a little bit, like he's going to put on strength when he gets into the NFL. Like, he's just kind of like still not fully in his frame. Like, he needs 15 more pounds. And I'm like, okay, that dude is going places. Like, that dude is a really, really talented center. He's similar to me because of the Tom Nalen comparison. Obviously, I'm close to the Broncos. That's a huge, one of the best centers that I've watched in my life. But Tom Nalen was a 7th round pick, undersized, about the same size as Slaughter in terms of like, you know, he's about 6'4", about 295, so a little bit smaller even, but just a tall center, lean frame. But he knew how to set up his blocks well. He knew exactly where to be, exactly when to be there, and he captained the offensive line for 14 years, right? That is what I see with Jake Slaughter. I'm just a huge fan. I think that he is one of the best centers in the class, and he's probably day 1 starting center for me.
Okay, so Taylor, you said he was your 10th interior offensive lineman, and if I heard you right, it's a day 3 grade. Correct?
Technically he's 7th, and yeah, it would be. I haven't really fully got my day. Like, he's definitely day two. Not I might have said day 3. I meant round 3.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Okay, yeah. We're good.
I have a pretty big.
That was actually the part that surprised me the most.
Say what?
There was the day 3 is the part that surprised me the most on everything.
No, I meant to say round 3. There's a pretty big drop off for me from my.
You're not the only draft professor that's done that. So
no, yeah. No, I like Jake. I just think Jake Slaughter, he showed it. Like, he was clearing the path. Like, he was coordinating things like for the Florida offense, which had, I mean, respect where respect is not due. I guess I don't know. DJ Lagway is not a good quarterback, and that offense was terrible because of him. And Jake Slaughter did everything he could to put that offense in the right situation, and DJ Lagway just didn't make a lot of plays.
So, Steve, who's next on your board?
Yeah, so I'm going to skip ahead. I also had Slaughter next, and we talked about Cooper. So it's time to get nuts. I'm really high on Jalen Farmer of Kentucky. Full-time right guard, one of the most dramatic, I guess, aggregate true pass divergence out of the guys that we're talking. Very good run blocking, I would say well above average, with a lean towards the gap scheme. But Kentucky ran pretty much about a 53, to 47, whatever the math is, gap to zone. So there's a good, and substantial sample size there. But what I like about him, he's got some heavy hands. He's really good on pulls. He could wash away his defenders with some of his angle blocks. He can displace guys. Thank you. Yep. I don't know. I never know if home squad is Daniel or Dalton, but
That's Daniel.
okay. Yeah. Hey, Dan. But the penalty discipline is one of the best out of the guys that I've spoken about so far. I mentioned Reed Adams before. If you look at the data, Armand Reed Adams commits a penalty every 75 snaps, and Farmer has committed one if you bring it out, every 818. That's like an 11 times difference. So yeah, I may be in the outlier. I like the arm length at over 34 inches. It's one of the longest out of the guards we've talked about. So I think that raises his ceiling. Really good athleticism. We saw what the 40 was. Probably one of the best guards, maybe the best guard in the series. Don't have that in front of me. He's got the NFL caliber movement and ability, despite some inconsistencies within the game. Anybody else got anything on Farmer?
Yeah, he's inside my top 12. He's 12th for me. So I'm pretty high on him too. Obviously, what he did at the combine, I have 9.67 for the Raz. That's going to put him up there, but the film was good too. A little inconsistent at times, but really strong. Like you said, doesn't give up a lot of negative plays, which is good. Obviously. So it's interesting because I think going into it, I think if you watch the tape, you kind of already expected him to be a little bit more athletic than people were giving him credit for. So when he ran that, it even surprised me. I didn't think he would get that. I think he ran like a 4.93 or something like that in the 40. I didn't expect that. How much do you weigh 40-yard dash for interior offensive linemen? Because for me, it's not a lot, right? Like it's not a ton. Like the difference between 4.9 and 5.3, that's different. But like if you're 4.9 to 4.95 to 5.06 or 5.1, like I don't know. I'm not really separating out that too much. But he's just so strong and powerful to go with this athleticism. So for me, Farmer's a big projection, but I project him to be a pretty good starting guard in the league. And I just see him as more of a late day 2 pick, like early day 3, probably even getting to round 4 would be where I think teams would start to take him. And that's about where I have him ranked right now. That doesn't mean you're not getting a really good player and a player that has more upside than most of the guys we've talked about so far. So I think that's where it gets interesting because he does have a little bit more of a ceiling than like, let's say, Brian Parker or even Jake Slaughter. Like I just mentioned those guys, or even maybe Inez Cooper, like even more upside than those guys. So interesting study, but yeah, he's 12th for me. So I like him as well.
Hey, Shaw, and who do you have next?
So we can talk about.
You mentioned Iowa before, so I'm dying to hear who you're going with.
Yeah, my Iowa guys ended up being ranked like the rankings went Jennings, Dunker. I basically watched Iowa and Texas A&M. I watched so many games because there's 3 offensive linemen on each one that are projected to go in the top 150, right, in the class. So I watched a lot of those games this week, and it ended up being Dunker at the top, then the 3 A&M guys, and then the 2 Iowa guys. So it's kind of interesting. They ended up at 15 and 16 for me, right next to each other. Bo Stevens, a little bit higher just because he does have a little bit more position versatility. Logan Jones, obviously a center only. But I mean, Bo Stevens is another guy that has that same Iowa mindset like Jennings Dunker, right? 6'5", 315. So what hurts him is the athleticism, right? He did not have a good combine. He had a fine combine, but 7.39 RAS. It's obviously not the worst in the world. A lot of these RAS numbers too are kind of just annoying to me because nobody's doing the agility anymore. So it's like, well, what are we doing here? We need kind of a new metric. So maybe we can build that, Steve, and we can make a.
I was talking with Kent Lee Platt about 30 minutes before the podcast. We'll work on it.
It's so necessary right now because it's impossible to do. Nobody's like, I think I saw someone posted 319 people at the combine, 6 total did every single drill, only 6 of them. That is a very small number. So I think Bo Stevens is a guy that's going to come in and he's going to play in the right scheme. He's probably going to be I don't know. I see him as more of a, backup guard for the next year or two while he gets prepared to be a starter, and then he comes in and he starts. But his mentality is there, so he could start day one as well. Logan Jones from Iowa, just a little bit lower for me. He's just he is a lot of IQ, right? Football intelligence. Logan Jones, one of the smartest players in the class, in terms of just the way he coordinates it. I think for him, he's even more undersized than Jake Slaughter, so that ranks him down a little bit for me. But pretty solid pass protector. Overall solid. I mean, he was an All-American, so I mean, he's obviously a really, really good player. I just have him graded a little bit lower than some of those other guards and centers from A&M that we talked about.
And Taylor, were we all the way down to 15 on your board?
No, he just mentioned Iowa, so I skipped to 15 and 16. There's only a couple players we haven't talked about in this tier, so I'll go to my next one. That's J.C. Davis out of Illinois. So, again, this is someone that played tackle in college, but we're projecting him to move into guard. 6'4", 322 pounds. I thought the film was really good. Another guy that didn't test super well at the combine. But I think he is someone who is a real big time projection, right? Because he's strong. He has good length. He's physical in the run blocking game. He has the ability to generate movement at the point of attack, and he is really good against power rushers. So projecting him inside as guard is a no-brainer, almost like as no-brainer as projecting Brian Parker as a center, right? I think everyone in the community is kind of on board. It makes the most sense. It's where he's going to fit in the NFL. I do think some of his, limitations come from being able to move and pull and do some of these things at that size. But I'm a fan. I think he's going to be another guy who we could look up in a couple of years and be like, oh, he's a pretty damn good guard. So I like him. I have him going on day 2, and I think he's another guy with pretty decent upside. So I like J.C. Davis out of Illinois.
So we were at interior offensive lineman 12.
That was 10 for me, but yeah,
that was 10.
We've basically covered my top
10
16.
with a day 1 or day 2 grade.
Yeah,
that to me feels like a pretty strong class.
Yeah, and like some of these guys, I don't think I would take them there, but I don't think they will because I don't think teams are as high on them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if Inez Cooper is going to go in day 2. I don't know if Jake Slaughter is going to go in day 2. I don't know if, J.C. Davis ends up getting day 2 capital. He could be a 4th round pick. You know what I mean? Like, there's a fine line. Like, all of these guys, like I said, there's a big drop off after my top 4. I have a 1st round grade, a really early day 2 grade, or probably would be a 1st round grade because of the class. He'll probably be in my top 32 in Pregnon. Rutledge and Fano, to me, if I'm just projecting them as interior offensive linemen, solid round 2 picks, 100%. And then it starts to get into like round 3 conversation for the next like 8 guys. So it's kind of interesting to see, some of these where teams are going to take these guys. Cage Casey was my lowest graded interior offensive lineman of 22 that I graded.
Wow.
Yeah, I just think I don't know. I think him moving maybe this is more because I think he can play tackle. I don't know that he needs to be an interior offensive lineman. So I rank every player that's a tweener at both positions. I will have him ranked as a higher offensive lineman. It's the same thing with Caleb Tiernan. I have Caleb Tiernan as like my 17th ranked interior offensive lineman. He measured 6'8" at the combine. He can't play interior offensive line. He's too big. He can't play. Like, imagine Kyler Murray or Diego Pavia running around behind Caleb Tiernan on the interior. I mean, it's just not possible. It's not plausible for him to play interior. If he would have measured 6'6", if he would have measured 6'7", then maybe we're talking. We've seen what have we seen? One player in, I'm gonna say NFL history because I'm obviously not that old, so I don't know how many guys have, but we've seen in recent memory Mekhi Becton as a 6'8" player, 6'7" player move from tackle to guard because he had no other choice. He is the biggest interior offensive lineman in the league right now, I believe. So like it's very much an outlier to assume a guy that's 6'8", 323 pounds can play on the interior of the offensive line. So if I'm grading those guys and Cage Casey as interior offensive linemen, I have them ranked lower because I don't see them being better as guard as they are at tackle. So that's my projection on those 2 guys.
So Steve, real quickly, can you go through about 5 offensive linemen that you have on your board we haven't talked about, just to make sure that the people watching get some of the other names that they're going to start hearing in the middle of day 3.
Yeah, so I'm not concerned at this point, just in the interest of time, to bang out some names. Here's one that I don't hear a lot of people talking about. Matt Golban, the center from Michigan State. Yes, they do have a football team. I actually was, that was mean, but whatever. Anyway, I actually was turned on with him because early in the season, I was pretty high on Aiden Childs as a quarterback. I really felt he was going to go back for 2026, but it was Golban's first year. But here's what I really like about Golban, and started watching him more. His anchor and his play strength, like that's his business card. When he puts his feet down and he's locked in, nobody moves him. Okay. The unstoppable force meets and whatever the expression is, right? He's a brick wall. Okay. Even when defenders are getting into his chest, run blocking, strong, great upper body strength, great leg drive. So he is a mauler, the road grader. He can pancake the smaller defenders by generating a lot of, what do we call it? Like the horizontal displacement. All right. Is run blocking, it's built on power. It's built on nasty finishing, the mentality, and it's built on leverage. So you want to try him, you're going to get buried. Pass perfection.
Started games at all 3 interior offensive line
positions.
Well,
right. Yep. So there's that. Let's see. You wanted some more before we wrap up?
I got some here. We can go on the center run. Do you want to talk
ahead.
centers? Because there's a bunch of them.
Sam Hecht, just go.
Sam Hecht out of Kansas State.
Fair enough.
My Kansas State guy, 6'4", 303. He's more balanced than a lot of the centers in this class. Like he projects to go in any scheme. Kind of the way K-State runs their offense, right? He can, they run the ball. They run the ball a ton. A lot of play action pass. So he is a guy that I'm a fan of. Then we just go on a run of centers, like you mentioned Matt Golban. I'm a little lower on him than you are. Guy a little higher on in terms of center is Connor Liu, obviously coming off the injury, but he's 20 years old. So that's a big projection for me because I'm not even sure he's going to be ready to play come the start of the 2026 season. I don't know where his rehab is at, but I know people have been talking about him as one of the top centers in the class for the entire cycle. That ACL injury was obviously not great, so we have to monitor that and rank accordingly. So I think he's a day 3 pick. And then Pat Coogan is another guy from Indiana that is a day 3 pick to me. You kind of just get on a run of centers here, like Logan Jones, Connor Liu, Matt Golban, Pat Coogan. Like these guys are all going day 3. They're all going to be centers. They're all going to play. They're all going to be pretty decent. None of them are going to be, in my opinion, none of them are going to be all pros. None of them are going to be Hall of Famers, but they're going to be in the league for at least 1 contract, maybe 2. And Golban specifically can move around. I think Hecht can move around. I think Liu and Coogan and Jones are kind of more strictly centers. But yeah, those are kind of.
Do either of you have a draftable grade on James Brockermeyer from Miami?
I did not get to Brockermeyer in my research quite yet, so I only was able to get to 22 offensive linemen, interior offensive linemen this week. So,
and I didn't even hear you mention Parker Brailsford.
I haven't got to him either. They're not ranked.
Yeah,
if I didn't mention them, they're not ranked.
I'm
we went
there,
through everybody
I'm
that
there
on
at. Him, but yeah.
The only other player that I've seen the community higher on than me, but I have him right now is 19th is Billy Schrauth out of Notre Dame, 6'5", 310-pound guard, just pure power, displacement.
But there's a lot of injuries there, if I remember correctly.
Exactly. So you got, 19th interior offensive lineman out of the 22 that I graded. I just think day 3, 100%. Like some people have been wanting them in day 2. I don't see that. Mainly because of the injury stuff, but the size is there. I think he can be someone that plays in the league and he can move positions as well. So I like Schrauth. A lot of day 3 guys. I think what we see, I just looked it up, like 24 to 28 get drafted on average, and most of those are in day 3.
I'll throw another name before we wrap up because I'm glad you brought up the Notre Dame dude, Fernando Carmona. is another one. Great grip strength, low center of gravity. I think the athleticism is better than what he gets credit for. He is limited. We saw certain things at the Senior Bowl, but he did put together, pretty solid workout last week at the combine. 6'5", 320, so he moves differently, but I think his pre-snap processing, if you watch some of the games, is right there. Started, he's got the experience and leadership. He played nearly a full season at left tackle last year, and then nearly a full season this past season in 2025. I'm sorry, Randall's not in here to defend his boy. Arm length is an issue, right? 31 and a half. I think it was Brugler said something about that. That no tackle, right, in the NFL with arms shorter than 32. There are some soft edges in this pass protection. He's a waist bender, so the body control, but, he puts together a nice tape. And, yeah, with that, I think we've covered a lot of my guys that I've had ready for tonight.
Yeah, you guys did a good job blitzing through like the last 10 guys in each of your boards there.
It was like speed dating, but for interior offensive linemen.
Yeah, well, and it's important. Everybody's going to talk about the top 5 or the top 10, right? I mean, your top 5s or top 10s, for the most part, were the players that every other draft podcast covers. Wanted to make sure we get deeper into the group, because these are the guys that you draft them now, and they're a starter for your team in 2027. But we could say that you heard them about here first. So why don't we pause for podcaster identification? Steve, do you want to let everybody know about all of your Jets podcasts and Twitter spaces?
Yeah. So you've got the handle right here on, I'm using Jim's philosophy now of X-Witter. Right? That's what we're calling it. Steve @Steve_NFL. Twitter spaces on Saturday and Sunday mornings. We cross the NFL. We do get a lot of Jet folks in there because nobody's perfect. But on YouTube, we branch it out, do work with other of the draft professors. Fridays, barring social obligations, you can find me on this channel at 7 p.m. pitching in as a GM and the first round mad tweeter, not the Mad Hatter, for the weekly Draft Professor mock drafts. I'll be running the war room for the JETS for our epic mock, which is coming up in 4 or 5 weeks.
4
Holy
weeks.
cow, it's here. 4 weeks. So yeah. And then of course, 7 p.m. right here with Chaw. And that may change as we get into the summer scouting, and excited to stay a part of this and get the stuff out to y'all.
Okay, Taylor.
Yeah, you can find me Football with Chaw on YouTube. I just put out a mock draft about 4 days ago, and man, shout out to anyone who watched that because you guys love that stuff. I got a lot of views on that. It was a lot of fun. 3 rounds, awesome mock draft. Now, full disclosure, so much stuff in the league has changed in the last 4 days. I'm gonna have to do another one. But yeah, so you can follow me there on YouTube. My X handle is down below. And then I'm here, like I said, every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, and then we'll get into summer scout. I mean, we're in the heart of draft season right now, and we're already scheduled out for summer scouting. So that's how we do it over here at the Draft Professor. So, all right, Jim, go ahead. Tell us about Epic Mock.
Yeah, so Brandon, here's your response on Tyler Biadasz. But yeah, so welcome to Draft Professor, everybody. We're here every day at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern. This was a really good podcast, and it's just a warm-up because we've got EJ and we've got Christian, and ironically, they're going to be doing a mock the wide receiver board. So Steve submitted a wide receiver board. We have Owens and Randall's wide receiver boards from Tuesday. I think Randy and JT also submitted a wide receiver board. So we're just going to kind of look at other people's wide receiver boards and decide what kind of content we can make. In addition to that, as Taylor said, we have Epic Mock, April 9th, 10th, and 11th. By the end of this week, I think all 32 spots will be filled. I was really busy right before this podcast recruiting the last 6 teams, and I think I found 3 of them already. So it's just one of these things that, finding podcasts that will mock draft with other podcasters. Jerry Ostrowski is hosting a war room. Jerry, thanks for stopping by. JT, who is here, is going to be doing the Buccaneers. Home Squad Sports is going to have a war room. Not sure what team yet, but you will see draft professors from all over the world, because we're going to have a couple of drafters from Europe. So it's going to be, they're going to be pulling an all-nighter, because it's going to be past 1 a.m. for them when we get started. So, but it's a lot of fun. So Epic Mock, April 9th, 10th, and 11th, sponsored by the Draft Professor, but it will be on every team's feed with a podcaster near you. As Steve said, we also do a 3-round mock every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to draft in that, go to the Draft Professor Twitter page. You can sign up on the pinned post. So you can be in the chat drafting for your team. We will have TJ Wengert and Jake Shivnick on the podcast discussing everybody's pick, discussing their boards, some of the guys that they're higher on. And as Taylor pointed out, the audience loves 3-round mocks, right? It's good content. Is once you get out of round 1, you're talking about players that not everybody talks about. So you got to get into round 3, and maybe we'll get bold and do a 4-rounder here shortly. So
yeah, I'm gonna have to get into the 4th round, because I got to stop mocking Elijah Surratt to the Raiders at the top of round 3 every time. So makes too much sense, doesn't it?
Well, I'll tell you now. I mean, didn't the McDuffie trade throw a monkey wrench into considering Ty Simpson for the Rams?
No,
right?
No, he's not good enough. No.
Yep. And it makes the Bills pick that much more valuable, because somebody can trade up to get Ty Simpson and Buffalo can trade back.
Somebody can have him at 16 for all I could. Come on, let's work. I need more 2027 picks, and I could use the 3rd this year. So let's go.
Yep.
We're open for business.
3 first-round picks next year already, right, Steve?
Yeah, I want 5 or 6.
Yeah,
because why not? Let's go for 32. We'll probably need them all too.
You can never have too many first-round picks.
First team to go 0 for 32 on having the entire first-round pick.
Oh no, they'll go. How many? Yeah, that's okay.
We're gonna would be salivating. Whoever's picking 33 would be like, all right, we're getting our player.
Right. Well, no, they. I don't know about 0 for 32, but I think they'll go 0 for 34 on interceptions 2 consecutive years. Anyway, we could do this another time.
Yep. For Steve, Taylor, myself, and the 85 podcasters at the Draft Professor, thank you for watching. We will see you on a podcast again in about 45 minutes. Thanks, everybody.